Hey, you guys, it is I, Becca Lori Hector, here with Being Back Alive. Welcome to the next Being Back Alive. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. I have been busy making sandwiches this morning. That's right, I came in this morning to help Antonio to make sandwiches. So I've been here for a few hours, kind of working on that. I'm sorry that the sound just kind of echoey. It's just the way that it is in this big empty room. But this is our little cafe room because I was out in the truck. And then you can see that door. You go in there to go ahead and get your coffee. So that's where I am right now. I don't have a topic for today, you guys. Being Back Alive is supposed to be about us talking about the challenges of living on the spectrum right now and not when research catches up. And today, I don't have a topic, which is terrible. I don't know that I've ever come to a live without really having a topic. Hey, Burnett, thanks for joining me. So I'm going to talk about something, I guess, that it's not a huge, big problem, but it's something that is going on in our community that ruffles my feathers, I want to say, that is like a pet peeve of mine. And I want to talk to you guys about it because I want to make some things clear. So, a lot of people in our community, as we are, hey Bernard, as we are growing in terms of voices in the advocacy world, a lot of folks have, you know, come into advocacy relatively recently, right? I've been at this for 10 years, you guys. Got my diagnosis almost 11 years ago, right? And I've been at this a really long time. Good morning, Nancy. And what I want to tell you is that I'm really glad that we've seen growth and change in our community because that's what I was working for. But I am miffed. I am miffed. It is a pet peeve. It ruffles my feathers, all of those little things that the current people in our community make a lot of judgment and say a lot of things. Hi, Emily, and say a lot of things, but they don't remember or don't keep in mind the history of our community as they are making comment about it now. And of course, the point is for us to have growth and all of that stuff and for the community to evolve. But we have to remember that. Welcome, Emily. I'm glad that you wrote and I'm glad that you've joined us. And so I want to talk about this whole issue. Thank you. I don't know how to broach it. So, what I want to say is that I'm part of a lot of professional communities. Okay. And I know that we talk a lot now, currently, about being neurodiversity affirming professionals, right? But I want to remind you that that is new. Okay. So being a neurodiversity affirming professional is a new thing, which means that anybody who is now a neurodiversity affirming professional was at one time not a neurodiversity affirming professional because it didn't exist. Okay, you guys? And so when you ask for recommendations, or you ask, or you're looking for a clinician, or you're looking for someone who's in a position to give you an official diagnosis, or you need some kind of specific medical care, right? What you're going to do is look around in your state for someone who's had experience with autism. Now, here's the deal. Here is the deal. When you go and look for someone who has had any experience over the last 10 years working in autism, the chances are you are going to find things on their website that is not neurodiversity affirming, that is maybe older language, right, which was correct at the time. And what I have to say is, please remember, most folks don't have time to sit around and every time the language changes, update their website. The other thing you may find is that they didn't even think about it, right? That they themselves, as a clinician, are neurodiversity affirming, but they haven't decided yet to update their website and put it on there and say it outright, or go through their website and clean out the things that are perhaps not neurodiversity affirming. But if anybody has been at the autism racket for any length of time, the chances of you finding things on their website or in their past as a clinician that is perhaps not neurodiversity affirming, perhaps at one time they've supported ABA, as did almost 100% of the clinicians working at all on autism, right? And you may even find, and this is probably the one that distresses everybody the most, you may even find some linkage to Autism Speaks. And I know we talk about the negativity of Autism Speaks and all the horrible things that they stand for, all the horrible things that they've done in the past. But let's remember, we've done a really good job of destroying the beast. Is it dead yet? No. But is our voice louder than it ever was? Yes. Will it take time to dismantle the machine that is Autism Speaks? Yes. And unfortunately, because they have this history and because they've been out there for so long, almost anybody who began a career in autism, at least if they began a career, let's say 6 to 10 years ago, right, they probably had some workings with Autism Speaks because it was the biggest autism organization in our country. So now that we have moved into a space that we say things like neurodiversity affirming, we say things like autistic culture, we say things like all of these positives, and we've omitted the cure and the fixed language and all of that stuff, but we need to give people a chance to catch up, right? If you have the luxury, the privilege, and I say this really carefully, the privilege of living in a state that is along the coast of the United States, or you live in one of the more populated areas in Canada or in the UK, you are very lucky. You guys are on the forefront of this growth and change. Everybody else on the planet is behind you. We're all delayed and behind you. And when we look at the United States, we see that our highly populated areas with money and forward thinkingness occur around and about the East Coast and around and about the West Coast. So if you're in California, you're in New York City, you are going to be surrounded by the most forward thinking folks because you live with the most people, with the most money, right? Everybody else in our country is behind you, just like the United States is behind Canada and the UK, right? So when you look at other clinicians in the rest of the country and somebody's looking for a clinician in a state that is in the middle somewhere like Colorado, likelihood is everybody is about 10 years behind where they should be in terms of language, in terms of thinking, in terms of where their professionals sit, where their autism organizations sit. And so when we are looking for clinicians in parts of the country that are not on the East Coast and not on the West Coast, right, what we find is a lot of old behavior, old websites, old language. And what I ask that we do for those people is look at them as an opportunity to educate. We need to find the good clinicians that are willing to be open-minded and educate themselves to move forward in these states. And as we find those people, we need to share those people with each other. So as someone who lives in a state that is 10 years behind, I've made an effort to get to know the professionals in my state so that at least I know them personally, and whether their website says they support Autism Speaks or not, I have had a conversation with them and can have, with very clear conscience, recommendations go to that person. And what I ask is that when somebody recommends somebody in a group, when somebody is asked for a contact in a particular state and someone gives a recommendation, that we all do this little thing called taking a moment. Take the pause, shall I say, right? Pause for a minute, because if they're asking for a clinician in one of the states in the middle of the United States, there are not only going to be limited choices, but we're also going to see a lot of bad websites, bad language, bad connections, because that's where they're at, man. But if you want someone who's more than that, you have to go somewhere else. And a lot of us, as we know, can't access somewhere else. And so before we attack someone who has made a recommendation, let's remember the state and our history before we attack that person for the age of the website, right? It means more to know somebody. So what I'm saying to you is, before you attack and jump on someone in a group, before we kind of flip that switch and say everybody needs to be neurodiversity affirming, we need them to understand what neurodiversity is. We need them to catch up first. They need some education so that they can then become neurodiversity affirming therapists. But we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We can't say if they're connected to Autism Speaks in any way, shape, or form, if there's a logo on something that they did 10 years ago, right? We can't throw them away. Those are our clinicians who understand us because they've grown with us. You cannot throw away these little diamonds in the rough. What you need to do is educate, because behind all their degrees is a human being, right? And chances are that human being wants to do the best that they can for the people that they're serving, but not if, right? We don't welcome them. Why should they? Why should they bother, right? And why should folks continue to even answer the recommendation questions that other people are needing if the rest of the people are going to attack them for it? Again, it's this attack behavior, that like you're not giving people a chance to transition into a new thinking pattern. You're just attacking them, right? And you're not educating. And that's, for a heads up for people, that's not advocacy. That's not what advocacy is for. We're supposed to be passing along this education. We're not supposed to be, right, beating each other up for not agreeing with us, right? I don't understand it. And it's been something that has come up multiple times. And a few times I've said, you know what? I'm not going to recommend anymore. I'm just not going to recommend people, even though I know they're good. And the person who's asking for them would probably appreciate the recommendation because that's why they're there in that group asking. I don't want to engage. I just don't want to engage in that behavior, because I feel like if I make a recommendation and, there's that logo somewhere 10 years ago, right, I'm getting attacked, and then I have to defend myself, and then my name gets dragged through the mud, right? But I really need us to understand there's a history here, and this doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time. And if you are sitting in a position of someone who is neurodiversity affirming, please understand it's your job to educate people as to what that is, because certainly there are more people who would like to be neurodiversity affirming, but they're not going to get that information if you stonewall them. They're not going to get that information if you beat them up when they get there, right? Let's see, I'm trying to catch up. Right, like there are people, Nancy, that do speak out against those things, right? But there are other people who just haven't caught up. They're caught in their daily living life, in their little box. They don't have time to be on Facebook and read the emails and the articles, right? They maybe don't go and get continuing education at the speed that we would like them to. And so what we have to remember is that it's our job at that point, right? It's our job at that point to educate them. Why throw away a perfectly good clinician just because you want to be stubborn and nasty about it, right? I don't understand that behavior. And I really don't. And so what I say to people is take your time. Learn a little bit before you start flipping switches like that. People have to understand that there's a history of being traumatized and left out and all of these things by professionals that is centuries old, right? And it took us centuries to get to where our clinicians are in this space. And if we want to get them moving forward, it's going to take us a hot bit. You know what I mean? There are going to be clinicians around who are perfectly good clinicians that just don't know any better. And it's our job as the people who do know better in our states to educate in our states where we need it, right? That's the whole purpose of advocacy. So if you're shouting out in the name of advocacy out there, just make sure that you've got your advocacy history with you, and that you're not doing this thing where we're tossing away people for the state of their website, right? Doesn't say anything about who they are as a person or a clinician. So if you're in one of those situations and you see someone who you think or heard or was recommended to you, right, and then you go on their website and it has something you don't necessarily agree with, make a phone call, send an email, ask, talk to that person, and make sure you're not just making affirmations from their website, right? It's our job to make the good clinicians better. It is not our job to take the good clinicians and throw them away because they don't update their website. It's bullshit. It's bullshit to call out people and to uh, elevate and call in other people to arguments about that when really you should be using all of that energy to be educating some peeps, right? So that's sort of where I'm at the moment. I kind of had that experience happen for maybe the fifth or sixth time yesterday, and I just thought to myself, what the fuck am I even recommending? Why am I even doing this? Why bother? I want just the person who asked for a recommendation to look and say, okay, that's another person on my list and another phone call I have to make and another option for me. I'm not recommending because I think the people I'm recommending are the end all be all of everything, right? In a world of nothing, I'm trying to elevate the cream of the crop to the top. That's all, right? So think about that stuff and the way that you respond and react to things you don't necessarily know a lot about. And remember where you live. Remember that other people don't live there and that it's different everywhere. And we're all aiming, we would all love in the United States to have the supports and services accessible to us with the clinicians that are neurodiversity affirming, but not all of us live in New York City anymore. And I have to tell you, right, that's a privilege. It's a privilege to have choice. Okay, and be sure you don't wave that privilege around like that, right? All right, it's going to be a short Being Becca Live today because I have a lot of crap to do, and as you can see, I was in the middle of doing stuff here, but I wanted to make sure to hop on. Sorry I didn't really have an important topic to us as a community today, but I hadn't really thought of one. Nothing really came forward, and I don't keep a list really anymore, which I guess I need to. But this is one that bothers me. It's one that really just, I don't know, it ruffles my feathers. I don't know what else to call it. It just gets me going. And I'm like, man, this is just so wrong. It's just wrong. It's a wrong way to handle it. There are better ways for us to communicate with each other. There are. And, you know, if we start in a place of negativity, that's only going to continue. And so I will not participate in that. And so if you run a group in which recommendations are asked for and sort of and are, you know, requested and people give them, watch your behavior in the comments, man. Think about who it is that you're talking to. You're talking to somebody who doesn't know as much as you. So you have to let them know better so they can do better. But if they don't know better, you don't get to beat them up for it. You just get to educate them, right? Yeah, so that's my message for today. That's what I'm throwing out into the world today. I got to get back to all the stuff that I'm doing. I have some exciting things in the works, which of course I can't share with you yet because you know how I feel about jinxing myself. And so until things are official, I can't say anything out loud, but I've got some really good things in the works for you. In the meantime, what I do have for you that's out right now is, of course, the Self-Defined Living course, which begins in a week. It begins on September 15th. A week from today, and I hope you guys will join me for that. If you have not registered, registration is still open. If you still need a scholarship, I have a few partial scholarships left that I can still give to you. And you can email me for that at becca@beccalaurie.com. Then, of course, I have the seminar coming out. The September seminar for the SDL seminar series is on building better boundaries. So if you're interested in working on boundaries and figuring out what they are and how to fit them into your life and how to create them, because they are extremely important, please join me on September 29th. That registration link is also on beccalaurie.com. You go to the seminar series tab and scroll all the way down for the newest one. And if you see any on your way you'd like to participate in, those are of course available right now for you. And while you're on my website, you can use the contact page to contact me. You can look at the Ko-Fi store, a Ko-Fi page, the Redbubble store. You can look at all of my writing, my social media links, and all of that wonderful stuff right there on beccalaurie.com. Link is down below if you need it. Until then, you guys, I am going to be out and about on the interwebs, and I will be sure to look for you guys there. I absolutely love your thumbs up. I love to know whether I'm doing good content. I love your comments because I love when we engage. So I don't care where you're watching the video, please feel free to comment. Of course, I appreciate your subscriptions more than anything else and your shares, because that gets us new people to come and join the conversation with us. So all of that I appreciate. In the meantime, I will be back here on Saturday for the next Growing Gratitude at 4:30 MST, and I'll be back here again next Wednesday with the next Being Becca Live. Until then, you guys, I will see you out and about out there. Get out there and seek joy, create joy, share joy, all the joys. And I will see you out on the internet. Bye.